Our top story takes us to North Korea. Kim Jong-un has ended a moratorium on nuclear and intercontinental ballistic missile tests. At a party meeting, Kim said his country will continue the nuclear program and introduce a new strategic weapon in the near future. Kim has accused Washington of making gangster-like demands and maintaining a hostile policy. He said there were no grounds for Pyongyang to be bound by the self-declared moratorium. The U.S. President Donald Trump has responded, saying he hopes Kim will keep to his denuclearization commitment.
He did sign a contract. He did sign an agreement talking about denuclearization, and that was signed, number one sentence, denuclearization. That was done in Singapore, and I think he's a man of his word, so we're going to find out, but I think he's a man of his word.
Well, U.S. President Donald Trump has also threatened Iran, blaming it for an attack on the U.S. embassy in Iraq. The U.S. has also deployed 750 troops to Baghdad following that attack. President Trump said Tehran will pay a big price for lost lives or damage to any U.S. facility. He described the comment as a threat, not a warning. Trump also said he does not want a war with Iran, but wants peace in the region.
I don't think that would be a good idea for Iran. It wouldn't last very long. Do I want to? No. I want to have peace. I like peace. And Iran should want peace more than anybody. So I don't see that happening. No, I don't think Iran would want that to happen. It would go very quickly.
Well, Tehran has rejected that accusation, saying Washington should reconsider its destructive policies in the region. On to news coming out of Afghanistan now, where the High Peace Council says mistrust between Kabul and the Taliban has jeopardized intra-Afghan talks. The council issued a statement after the Taliban rejected media reports of a ceasefire in the country. The council said both the government and Taliban are not yet willing to change their hardline positions. It said this stubbornness will continue the war and hit the civilian population hardest. Intra-Afghan talks were set to restart after a deal between the Taliban and U.S. fell through when Bagram Air Base was attacked on December 11th. Indian-occupied Kashmir has turned into the world's biggest jail for the last 150 days. On August the 5th, the Indian government abrogated the valley's special status and imposed a complete curfew and communications blackout.
In the last 5 months, the Indian authorities have arrested over 13,000 Kashmiris, including minors. The Kashmir Commerce Chamber said Valley's economy has suffered loss of $2.5 billion in this time period. An Indian fact-finding mission said Kashmiris have started a civil disobedience movement against the Indian government. The top U.S. daily reported India's internet ban in the Valley is longest by any democracy in the world. International, regional, and domestic bodies, including the UN, EU, OIC, and US Congress, have condemned the Indian atrocities in Kashmir. A recent report said the Indian government is rewriting the history textbooks of the valley to distort facts. Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International have also condemned India repeatedly and asked the world to take action. New Delhi has not allowed access to any foreign media and human rights bodies to see the ground situation in the valley.
Well, countrywide protests across India against the new controversial Citizenship Act have continued. 27 people have been killed across that country by police violence since December 12th. Civil society and rights activists have planned demonstrations in New Delhi, Mumbai, and Chandigarh. The all-women sit-in continued at Delhi's Shaheen Bagh as protesters welcomed the new year with the national anthem. Meanwhile, demonstrations will also be held at India Gate and outside Constitution Club in the capital today. Yesterday, 100 Indian civil rights bodies announced the launch of a new wave of nationwide protests from January 3rd. Bangladesh has shut down the services of telecom operators along the border with India until further notice. Officials said the decision was made in the wake of protests against the citizenship law that critics say discriminates against Muslims. A mobile phone company official said the suspension of mobile services would impact about 10 million people living on the border. The move stems from concerns that Indian Muslims might seek to flee to Bangladesh. In other news, China has said the U.S. will not succeed in sowing discord between it and Central Asian states. Foreign Ministry spokesman Geng Shuang said China and Central Asian countries are friendly neighbors and strategic partners. Geng's remarks come after the U.S. announced Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's visit to Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan to discuss China's Xinjiang. He said Central Asian countries have always understood and supported China on issues related to Xinjiang. Geng said any deceit or slander by the U.S. will not work. He said both sides will continue to develop friendly relations and jointly combat terrorism, extremism, and separatism. Russia's President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky have agreed to begin work on a new prisoner swap. Ukraine's presidential office says the two countries will build a list of prisoners for the exchange. On Sunday, Zelensky's government and Russian-backed rebels exchanged 200 prisoners in a bid to end the 5-year conflict in East Ukraine. The Ukrainian presidency said Kiev received 76 captives, while separatist officials said the self-proclaimed Donbas republics took in 124 prisoners. Well, the Arab League has called for measures to prevent foreign interference in Libya. The pan-Arab body passed a resolution in the wake of military agreements between Turkey and Libya's UN-recognized government. In a meeting in Cairo, member states said they want to prevent the arrival of foreign extremists in Libya. They expressed concern at the military escalation in the country, threatening the security and stability of the entire region. In response, Libya has accused the Arab League of double standards. Libyan envoy Saleh Shamahi condemned what he called the worst exploitation of their maritime agreement with Turkey. Ankara says the Arab League remains silent, unable to demonstrate support for Libya's legitimate government. Lebanon says former Nissan chief Carlos Ghosn has entered the country legally and sees no reason to act against him. Ghosn fled a trial in Japan on 4 charges of financial misconduct. Lebanese media reported Ghosn smuggled himself out in a musical instrument box after a Christmas band visited his residence in Tokyo. Ghosn said he escaped injustice and political persecution, branding Japan's legal system rigged. The auto tycoon denies the charges and has accused Nissan executives of backstabbing him. Ghosn's lawyer said he was dumbfounded at the news of his client's sudden exit from Japan. Elsewhere in Venezuela, 10 inmates have been killed after heavy fighting broke out at a jail in the northwestern state of Zulia. A human rights NGO says at least 4 grenades were detonated in the clashes before prisoners torched a wing of the facility. The rights body said clashes broke out at a jail serving as a holding pen at a regional police headquarters. Venezuelan authorities have made no statement about the death toll from the rioting. Zulia Governor Omar Prieto said he is planning to close the detention center. In India, 6 people have died when a lift installed at the central Madhya Pradesh farmhouse of business tycoon Puneet Agrawal failed. Police said a number of other people were injured by the accident in the state's Padapani area. Police say the incident happened during a New Year party staged at the farmhouse. They say a belt on the machine snapped, plunging the lift down a shaft as the businessman was with relatives. Agrawal is one of India's largest contractors, and his company, Path India, mainly deals with construction projects. Welcome back. Now in North China's Inner Mongolian Yakeshi city, winter is protracted, as is the freezing cold. The local tourism and manufacturing industries are flourishing here. Over 40,000 people have switched their professions to work in tourism-related industries.
In Yakshi city, the rich forest and plenty of snow has become a treasure, attracting visitors for the whole year. The temperature here could be as low as -40 degrees Celsius. Visitors from Beijing told they were quite impressed by the place.
It's amazing, especially the soft rime.
I've been here before, in the summer and autumn. It's great to see the snow here in winter now.
The place is now a top choice for vehicle companies to conduct vehicle tests during winter. 4 automobile businesses have established their winter automobile test fields here, testing over 1,200 vehicles every year.
Ukeshi City offers an extremely long testing cycle, 4.5 months, which is important to vehicle performance tests.
Though Beijing does not possess rich ice resources as its fortunate northern neighbors, but using advanced technology, the authorities have turned the National Aquatics Center into Ice Cubic.
The Winter Ice Shift Plan will enable us to retain the legacy of 2008 Summer Olympic Games and the 2022 Winter Olympic Games, greatly reducing the cost.
The stadium is ready for holding winter sports events like curling, with previous swimming pools turned into ice fields.
Let's begin business news with Kenya, where the tea from that country's highlands has satisfied drinkers from London to Lahore for generations. But now the prized black tea isn't fetching the prices it used to. Factories are experimenting with a range of new tea leaves and methods in an attempt to beat unstable prices. This report has more.
These women have hand-picked tea in Kenya's highlands for years. The process of curing and shredding the leaves has remained the same for decades. But Kenya's prized black tea is not fetching the prices it once did, forcing the top supplier of the world's most popular drink to try something new. Factory workers are experimenting with a range of boutique teas, deviating from decades of tradition in the quest for new customers and a buffer against unstable prices.
And we are now trying to diversify to orthodox teas, the type that Sri Lanka produces. Now that orthodox tea will enable us to enter new markets such as Russia and those other states around Russia.
Workers in Unyeri are being retrained in the production of orthodox tea, a slower, more delicate process that preserves the leaf for a more flavourful result. The shift towards orthodox teas has been costly, with the change in working culture also proving to be a challenge for farmers and labourers. But with prices for Kenya's traditional, finely cut tea falling, the risk was necessary to take.
Tea is a commodity, and as you know, with commodities, prices are very erratic and are ever changing. Unlike costs are forever going up.
The Kenyan tea industry hopes that the shift will bear fruit in the long run, with custom varieties and infusions of orthodox teas often being sold at higher prices.
Time now to find out what the weather is like around the world. With that, you're all caught up. Thank you for watching this bulletin here at Indus News.